leaders must do everything possible to ensure that all can have the minimum spiritual and material means needed to live in dignity and to create and support a family, which is the primary cell of any social development. In practical terms, this absolute minimum has three names: lodging, labor, and land. And one spiritual name: spiritual freedom, which includes religious freedom, the right to education, and all other civil rights. Now, for all this, the simplest and best measure and indicator of the implementation of the new agenda for development will be effective, practical, and immediate access on the part of all to essential material and spiritual goods: housing, dignified and properly remunerated employment, adequate food, and drinking water, religious freedom, and more generally, spiritual freedom and education. Now, these pillars of integral human development have a common foundation, and this is the right to life and, more generally, what we could call the right to existence of human nature itself.
La crisis ecológica.
The ecological crisis, together with the large-scale destruction of biodiversity, can threaten the very existence of the human species. The baneful consequences of an irresponsible mismanagement of the global economy, guided only by the ambition for wealth and power, must serve as a summons to a forthright reflection on man. Man is not only a freedom which he creates for himself. Man does not create himself. He is spirit and will, but also nature. Creation is compromised, where we ourselves have the final word. The misuse of creation begins when we no longer recognize any instance above ourselves, when we see nothing else but ourselves. Consequently, the defense of the environment and the fight against exclusion demand that we recognize a moral law written into human nature itself, one which includes the natural difference between man and woman and the absolute respect for life in all its stages and dimensions. Without the recognition of certain incontestable natural ethical limits, and without the immediate implementation of those pillars of integral human development, the ideal of saving succeeding generations from the scourge of war and of promoting social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom risks becoming an unattainable illusion, or even worse, just idle chatter which serves as a cover for all kinds of abuse and corruption, or for carrying out an ideological colonization by the imposition of anomalous models and lifestyles which are alien to people's identity and, in the end, are irresponsible. War is the negation of all rights, and it's a dramatic assault on the environment. If we want true integral human development for all, we must work tirelessly to avoid war between nations and between peoples. Para tal fin, hay que asegurar To this end, there's a need to ensure the uncontested rule of law and tireless recourse to negotiation, mediation and arbitration as proposed by the Charter of the United Nations, which constitutes truly a fundamental juridical norm. The experience of these 70 years since the founding of the United Nations in general, and in particular the experience of these first 15 years of the third millennium, reveal both the effectiveness of the full application of international norms and the ineffectiveness of their lack of enforcement. When the Charter of the United Nations is respected and applied with transparency and sincerity and without ulterior motives